13 Best Indie Games on Nintendo Switch. Switch owners can enjoy these great indie games currently on offer. Huge AAA titles created by large teams of developers normally dominate the news cycle and get all the fan attention, but indie games can easily deliver just as much entertainment. Just because games are put together by smaller teams doesn't mean they're going to be any better or worse than releases from major studios. In fact, some of the best games released over the last few years have been created by independent developers. Because indie games generally rely more on word of mouth or positive reviews in order to generate sales, a lot of them can fly under the radar and might be overlooked by players who wouldn't otherwise love them. When it comes to the Nintendo Switch, there are a ton of fantastic indie games available for fans to enjoy. These games prove why indie game development is so important, toying around with ideas that AAA developers who want to take minimal risks will never even think about integrating into their games. The Nintendo Switch is a console that is definitely on its last legs, and it's only a matter of time before Nintendo announced a new system as a successor to one of its most profitable products. After the Wii turned out to be a massive failure, both the Nintendo execs and fans were elated to see this portable home console hybrid be such a massive success all over the globe. It helped that Nintendo relaxed its restrictions on third-party developers on this system in a monumental move that allowed many beloved indie titles to be released on this console. 13. Night in the Woods, a story-driven adventure. A game with an amazing narrative that will keep players hooked. Night in the Woods deals with a bunch of anthropomorphic characters in the small town of Possum Springs who have to deal with the many ways this place has changed over time. It's a simple yet excellent premise that is further supplemented by great writing across the board. The manner in which this game tackles real-world issues is extremely impressive and goes to show just how well-handled the game's overall themes are. Players who want to play through an indie game with a great story will love what Night in the Woods brings to the table. 12. Cadence of Hyrule, Crypt of the Necrodancer featuring The Legend of Zelda, a fun rhythm-based dungeon crawler. Crypt of the Necrodancer is an amazing combination of rhythm-based gameplay and roguelike dungeon crawler elements that ended up being a massive hit across the board. The game's simple yet tantalizing gameplay loop coupled with the wealth of amazing tunes led to the title becoming a smash hit to the point where Nintendo contacted the developer to make a crossover game featuring elements from the Legend of Zelda series. The end result was Cadence of Hyrule, an excellent Switch exclusive that fans should definitely check out for its unique gameplay. The familiar tones of the series have been remixed with great panache and let players rock out as they beat down numerous enemies to the tune of the beat. 11. Katana Zero, Hardcore, Fast-Paced Action. Players looking for an action-packed title that will punish their mistakes severely will love what Katana Zero has to offer. The game lets players control a mysterious assassin who carried out several killings, eventually drawing the ire of stronger foes than the very people who hired him in the first place. It's an excellent title that makes players feel amazing as they slice and dice their way through numerous foes without taking a single hit in the process. This isn't a flex, players need to get through the levels without taking a single hit since doing so leads to their progress being reset to the beginning of each stage. 10. Stardew Valley, not just a farming simulator. Stardew Valley is the epitome of why many people enjoy indie games, as every detail of it feels like a labor of love. It's a farming simulator with so much more to enjoy than just that, including relationship building, mining, and basic combat. Stardew Valley has short days that give players regular breaks while also encouraging them to continue for just one more. It's a charming and fun experience with a lot of replay value, and Stardew Valley is one of the most iconic indie games for a good reason. 9. Celeste, a platformer with depth. Celeste is one of the few indie games that was almost immediately a major success, and it's no surprise seeing as it's a fantastic platformer. Celeste is full of fun yet challenging levels, and it requires great reactions in order to progress all the way up the titular mountain. The main character Madeline is very well written, showing growth as she climbs and overcomes her own issues. Between the story and the gameplay, there isn't much that Celeste fails to do well, and it's easily one of the best indie games available on Nintendo Switch. 8. Slay the Spire, every card matters. Slay the Spire is a fantastic roguelike deck builder that feels like it was built with the Switch in mind. Megacrit did a great job of developing a game that can be picked up and put down at any moment, something that the platform is known for. A full run through all 4 acts can take a while, but many runs will end before Act 1 is over and leave players desperate for another attempt to climb the game's tower. With 4 different characters each having a few deck building options, the replay value is huge. 7. Hollow Knight, a big accomplishment on a small budget. Like the majority of indie games, Hollow Knight was made on a paper-thin budget. Unlike most of its peers, however, Hollow Knight made a crazy amount of money for the small team that made it. Hollow Knight is a side-scrolling 2D Metroidvania game that takes place in the underground kingdom of Hellenist. Although Hollow Knight has boss battles that can cause players a ridiculous amount of stress, it's very rewarding for anyone that sticks with it. It's a challenging game for anyone, but perseverance quickly reveals one of the best Metroidvanias in recent memory. 6. Hades, enjoying endless runs. Hades was one of the breakthrough games of 2020 and remains one of the best roguelike games to this day. Supergiant Games really hit gold when they put Hades together, a hack-and-slash game that offers incredibly satisfying combat as players go from room to room searching for an escape from the underworld. The story is solid and the amount of replay value that it offers can keep players engaged for hours on end. Combine that with the ability to pick up and play runs on the go, and Hades is a fantastic choice for any Switch owner. 5. Undertale, choices with major consequences. Undertale is an attractive RPG that remains one of the few games to deconstruct the genre. Like many indie games, the graphics are relatively simple, but the gameplay is more than good enough to make up for it. The music is enjoyable too, but the story is where Undertale really shines. It sees players take control of a small child who has gotten lost in the underground, a subterranean realm full of monsters. Choices made during the course of the game radically alter the plot and different endings take place depending on how a player handles battles. 4. Divinity, Original Sin 2, an RPG above its station. Divinity, Original Sin 2 is easily one of the best indie RPGs in recent years and is often regarded by fans as one of the best RPGs in general. As with any port to Nintendo Switch, the ability to play on the go has only enhanced what was already a great game, to begin with. Divinity, Original Sin 2 allows players to make their way through the world solo or cooperatively in the setting of Rivel and is incredibly well built, making for a fully immersive experience. 3. Wargroove, a love letter to a classic game. Wargroove is only the second game developed in-house by Chucklefish, the publisher of Stardew Valley. While it might remind players of the Advance Wars series, Wargroove makes use of a fantasy setting for its turn-based tactical combat instead. There are several commanders and a wide range of powerful units available to choose from, coupled with the solid story that players will likely find engaging from start to finish. There's also plenty to do outside the single-player campaign, with online multiplayer, a puzzle mode, and the ability to create one's own battles. 2. Cuphead, running and gunning in the 1930s. Cuphead makes good use of the classic cartoon art style to display an interesting and unique storyline. While the artistic choices are what initially attracted a lot of players, the fact that Cuphead is one of the best modern run and gun games is what made them fall in love. Players take control of Cuphead while a second can use his brother Mugman to repossess souls for the devil, using a variety of different abilities in order to do so. It's a fun and challenging game that any fans of the run and gun genre will enjoy. 1. Shovel Knight, retro platforming fun. Yacht Club Games managed to crowdfund Shovel Knight, and they delivered a lot more than their backers might have expected at the time. Shovel Knight is a retro platformer that has spawned 2 different spin-off games, and a lot of that is down to its great level design, interesting characters, and surprisingly fun combat. Not only does Shovel Knight have a great new Game Plus option that increases the difficulty dramatically, but it also has plenty of DLC available for players who haven't got enough when the original game ends.